Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome to my channel. I'm really glad you're here. Today's video will explore the limits of language, the simultaneous necessity for and consequences of using words to express life. And at the end of the video, I'll leave you with a meditative phrase that you can use to integrate anything helpful you might find from today's deeper dive. So my last reflection was on names. I shared with you all a bit of my own name journey and how changing my name opened my eyes to the ways in which possibility and anxiety often go hand in hand, and how any label we give for ourselves or are given by others shapes the ways in which we understand ourselves in relation to who we are and who we might become. If you missed that video, you can catch it in the tag above or in the link in the description to this video. But today, we will be taking a closer look into the ways in which the duality of possibility and anxiety are present in all names, and thus in all words and in all language. So ultimately, every word we have is really just a name of some kind. Words, like names, have a history, a context. When we study these histories, contexts, and evolution in English, we call it etymology. We can consider the ways in which words are born, overlap, and evolve alongside life and understanding. We can see that words have not always meant the things that they mean today, how they are prone to continue changing, and how words themselves are both shaped by and help shape expressions of life. A couple miscellaneous and cursory examples to help illustrate this. First, and pivotal to my childhood linguistic awakening, the book Friendle by Andrew Clements, where a fifth grader begins to call a pen a friendle, to the utter dismay of his uptight teacher, and a subsequent socio-legal and national populist battle ensue over this word. So this book first introduced me to the idea that words are really just an extension of how we use them, which was quite the mind blower as an elementary schooler. Second would be gerrymandering, a political word created because in 1812, Elbridge Gerry was really tired of losing elections, so he just rearranged the voting districts to ensure his own victory, and the subsequent district lines, when looked at on a map, resembled a strange salamander. Thus, a word was born to express what was then a newfound political tactic, but is now a shady political reality that reflects the manipulation and corrupt power struggle that is American politics. But before Elbridge Gerry busted out this political move, the phenomenon had not been conceived, or at least had not been named, in the American landscape. And the last example for now would be Shakespeare. And as anyone who has read, seen, or performed Shakespeare can attest, while the language is still English, the passage of time reveals the ways in which words are used differently than they once were. And SparkNotes has branded No Fear Shakespeare to help young students translate English into English. But the examples are limitless. Every word was once just a new name, and every name has a history, a context, an evolution. Every word in every language has an origin, has a life. And many of them also have deaths, as we abandon words that we no longer need, that no longer make sense, that no longer reflect our collective thoughts. So, to borrow some Shakespeare, as Juliet pines over Romeo and how utterly inconvenient it is that her teenage lover is part of a warring family, that his name is not considered acceptable in her world, she swoons, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." And her question is one that people have been asking for hundreds of years now. What's in a name? And I believe it's a question of importance, one that's worth asking again and again as language, life, and human understanding continue to evolve. As I explored in my last reflection, names are powerful, and personal names are powerful. As a queer person, I have discovered the necessity of self-articulation, and I have come out multiple times in multiple ways, as gay, and then as non-binary, and again as trans femme. And I have wrestled as each coming out placed me in a new box. My life became lumped in with other gay people, with other trans people. whether or not we had anything in common other than an inability to find heterosexuality and cisgenderism to be totally comfy ways of being. And this lack of political coherency around a name resulted in a growing acronym, LGBTQQIAA There was and is commonality under this acronym in a shared political movement. But there is as much diversity in any group as there are people within it. And names gave way to other names, which helped make as much sense of queer distance as queer similarity. And even while I take pride in my queer labels, they are unsatisfactory as a way of ultimately defining me. And being seen as only trans or only queer, or even being seen primarily as trans or primarily as queer, necessarily makes it harder for people to get to know other truths about me. And speaking even more honestly, while these labels have been vital to my own self-understanding, and for the sparse political victories and liberation movements that they have spawned, these labels have also made it harder for me to get to know myself, and made it harder to imagine myself outside of or beyond these labels. And my experience is not unique. As my elder friend Dion is always reminding me, the internet was really one of the largest catalysts for queer community, as people could name their experiences remotely from anywhere in the world, and with anonymity, without fear of being outed or crushed by oppressive social norms. And the addition of every new letter to the acronym marks a new articulation of ways of inhabiting the world, a new community of people who share a common experience. But in the naming, there is also a kind of trapping, a pinning down of experience, and the creation of new norms within smaller communities that reflect a negotiation with how much or how little one actually feels seen or represented by that community. There is an utter joy and livability to finding a name that feels right. But as soon as one name is chosen, there is also a collapse of possibility, a finality, a consequence, and a specific image that accompanies that name. And this is true of every name or label. Every term or adjective we apply to our lives is true in some necessary sense. But if we accept those labels are our whole self, or our whole truth, or are the whole truth or self of someone else, then we are committing acts of ignorant violence, reducing people and experiences to their names. And as I addressed at the beginning of this video, the same is true of all language, as language is nothing more than a perpetual naming, putting words to our experience or placing experience inside the frame of words helps us to feel less alone, to share our experience with others, to articulate our hearts and minds. These things are beautiful and worthy of celebration. They give us stories, poetry, books, and whole disciplines of thought. The ability to expand our thinking by interacting with unique and diverse expressions of language as they reflect expressions of life. But also, the moment we place experience inside the frame of words, we are trapping it there. By articulating our thoughts, feelings, hopes, fears, lives via language, we are pinning them down. By saying one thing, you are always necessarily not saying many others. It is not that language lacks precision. Indeed, we have many words which communicate very singular and specific things. It is simply that all the precision in the world cannot account for the mystery, nuance, and deep complexities of experience. And even when language succeeds at preserving some of life's complexity, life continues to change, to evolve, leaving us with the need for new or different words to address the gaps we discover along the way and the new experiences we encounter. Language bears the weight of time, possibility, socialization, context, and thought, and it does so quite remarkably. The fact that we can use language to communicate such complex ideas and share such unique facets of ourselves is nothing short of awe-inspiring. But it is important to keep in mind the limitations of language, that for everything which is spoken, there remain countless others which remain unspoken, perhaps even unspeakable. There are things which language simply cannot say. Recognizing this should motivate us to speak with as much precision as possible, to handle the slipperiness of language with serious care and responsibility. But it should also free us from any understanding, any singular perspective as totalizing, as absolutely or eternally true, and should challenge us to listen to life beyond language, to remember that more of life and truth will remain forever unspoken and unspeakable. So we should try to avoid ever becoming too attached or too committed to any singular perspective. I will leave you all with a meditative phrase, one that you can connect to your breath to help process, examine, and integrate any truth you may have found from my words today. And it goes like this. So on the inhale, think to yourself, words give shape to life. And on the exhale, but life is more than words. Words give shape to life, but life is more than words. Words give shape to life, but life is more than words. If you have any questions for me, feel free to post them in the comments below, or if you're feeling brave and vulnerable enough to share some way that today's video has spoken to you, I'd really love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up and click subscribe. Your support means a great deal to me, as I want to provide reflections which speak to you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. I love you all as I love myself, as we are part of the same world. I wish you peace and perspective, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. If you want to know more about me or about this channel, you can catch my first video here. And if you missed my reflection on names, which provides some more personal context for my musing, you can find it here.